Kimberli Werner is an American expat, freelance abstract artist, photographer, and writer based in England for the past 12 years. And she took our Storytellers in Action masterclass earlier this year. And since then, she's been a very active and very supportive member of our circle membership community. And I'm so glad to have you, Kim, as part of our community and everything that we're doing with Genius Women. And I'm so happy that you're here on the podcast today as well. So welcome.
Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. So, when you shared your bio with me in preparation for today, and I saw that you called yourself a photographer and writer in addition to being an artist, I was like, yes, I love it. I love it. So, tell me, when did you start calling yourself those things?
Well, artist came um, about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I had been painting for probably about 6 years, and yeah, it just didn't feel like the right label at the time. But that one came earlier, and then I've always been a photographer. I just enjoy taking pictures of my paintings, of nature. I enjoy macro photography, and so that was just kind of a natural one, and it was the writer one that really took a
Mm.
while. um, and to be honest, I'm still kind of just trying it on, but I am getting published, so it's it's becoming a little more solidified.
Yes, yes, I love it, and this all deposits into that bucket. Even things like putting it in your bio, that deposits into that bucket of, hey, I'm a writer, reinforcing that idea for yourself, right? Because we had a very interesting conversation about this with Ashley Halligan, who is an editor at Pilgrim Magazine, founder and editor, and we were talking about this idea how we have very strong narratives in our heads that tell us how you are allowed or not allowed to call yourself, like what needs to happen to you in order for you to call yourself a writer, right? You need to be published, you need to have accolades, you need to produce huge body of work. And I just find it so fascinating that that's the narratives that we have. And I'm actually here to change some of those narratives and say, no, you are a writer because you like to put words on page.
Yeah,
And that's the
true.
only
Yeah.
definition that you need, really. That is, but I loved seeing that. I loved seeing that in your bio. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the fears that so many of us have when we are on this path, because oftentimes, and related to the narratives idea that I was just talking about, oftentimes we can be our worst enemies. And a lot of people that I talk to who are interested in this path, they have these sort of ideas of, it's too late for me, or I don't know enough about this industry, or I don't know the right people, or I've got nothing to say, or who am I to do this work? Like, talk us through a little bit through some of your aspirations and some of the fears that you had when you were thinking about this path.
Well, I did definitely go through that, and every so often they still pop up. I think my
Mm-hmm.
biggest one was that I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't, like you said, I do enjoy writing, but I just didn't, I didn't know how to break into the industry. I didn't know how to write a pitch. I didn't know who to contact or how to even look for who to contact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, at the time that I was thinking about taking the course, it was just it did feel really overwhelming. It felt like there's just too much research that I needed to do, and so it kind of got set aside while I focused on other things. Um, but then reading the description of your course, I was thinking, well, maybe this is, maybe I'll be able to find out those things. And then, yeah, and then joined up. So yeah, I did go through. Um, like I'm definitely an optimist in the sense that I never think it's too late. Um, but
I love that.
and I think part of just being part of the art world has shown me that as well. There's a lot of people that
Mm.
have, not become successful until much later in life. But
Hmm.
I think my biggest one was just that I didn't know, I didn't understand, I didn't know how to break into it, and I didn't
Yeah.
understand a lot of the verbiage and just
Yeah.
how it all worked. Yeah,
Yeah, this industry can be so overwhelming, like you said, because a lot of the mentality is still sort of this exclusive club of
yeah,
some special people that get to do this, And it always was so interesting to me that that was the case, that it wasn't really straightforward. And now I'm starting to see, more and more publications are putting their guidelines online, and you can find more information online. People are more open about sharing, but yeah, it's still a very overwhelming place for somebody who is not part of that industry. So that was definitely my motivation with creating the class. It's like, okay, let's start putting some of that stuff out there, right? So what were you hoping to accomplish with the class?
well, I hmm. I wanted to see. I had taken a couple um, travel courses in the past, travel writing courses,
Mm. Oh,
and
interesting.
yeah, and I finished those and just still felt very in the dark about how things all worked. So I was hoping that this one was going to sort of change all that and bring some clarity to the process. I'm really good with like step by step guides. I work very well with those, and so um, once I once I was taking the class and noticed that you were kind of offered that sort of
Step by
guidance as
step
well,
approach. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought this is it.
So so interesting. So how was our class different from those other ones where you didn't get some of that clarity that you're talking about? Or like what was different about it?
Yeah, well, I think both of them sort of jumped in assuming that you understood the industry, and jumped in kind of
Mm.
um talking about, oh well, oh, you just have to write, they called it a query letter. I don't even know what that
Hmm.
is, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to write that. So there was just a lot of assumptions. I think a lot of assumptions made that you kind of already knew what you were
Hmm.
doing. Whereas your class, you started off with kind of unexpectedly, but you started off with the whole mindset um,
Hmm.
module, which just I thought at first going into it, I was a little like, okay, but it was perfect. It
Mm.
really kind of set the tone for the rest of the class, and made us think about our why and our and like you said, like our own limitations that we put on
Mm.
ourselves, that we just need to kind of let go.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do explain in the class what a query letter is, although we call it differently because for us it's really a pitch,
Yeah,
which can be,
yeah,
they're called interchangeably. But yeah, we do explain those terms, and I like that you said that because yeah, I really don't assume that people already know some of this stuff, right? I approach it from the point of, okay, if you're not already part of the industry, how would you start making inroads in there? So you need to know some basic things, that will be helpful for you. And in terms of the mindset, yeah, mindset is a word that now is so overused. Everybody uses it everywhere. And I think when people hear it, they get skeptical also about what it's all about. But for me, because this was part of my own story and my own transformation, until I really created that vision for myself and started believing myself that I can do this work is for me, not much has happened. So I think it's a really important foundation for any kind of creative work, for us to ask some of those questions and get some of that clarity from ourselves, right? Because no one else will be able to tell you, this is the next step you should take, if you don't know what is the vision that you're trying to get towards. Like, what are you trying to achieve? I think it's really important to ask some of those questions. So I'm glad that you appreciated that, albeit hesitantly, perhaps. That's really good. So speaking of hesitantly, what were some of the hesitations that you had in joining the class? Like when you were considering that, this is enrolling, what were some of the things that you were thinking about that, maybe I shouldn't do it now?
Um, well, part of it, I suppose, was will it turn out just like the other ones?
Mm,
And one of them, part of it was time, making sure I had enough of that to dedicate to the to each module, and really, looking, really diving into it, I guess, and
mm-hmm,
not just sort of skimming through. And um, and I suppose, yeah, I was just kind of wondering if I could do it, and but I think the class definitely helped that.
if you could do it, meaning if you could go through the material, or if you could take what we'll teach in the material in the class and apply it and actually get
Yeah,
some things out of it.
yeah,
This the
taking what we learned and applying it and continuing with it. I think, which
mm,
is part of the reason I joined the circle afterwards, was because I needed that sort of um, support and push to keep on going with it.
mhm. Yeah, and it's so funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's so interesting that these are the things that come up again and again when I speak to people. It's, people are worried that they don't have enough time. Uh, People are worried that, hey,
Oh,
I think
you
I
froze a
lost you.
little
Are you
bit
there?
there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm here. You froze. And
Welcome to Jordan. Welcome to Jordan. The Wi-Fi has been just so crazy. But what I was saying is that it's so interesting to me to see that these are the themes that come up again and again. That people are worried that they don't have enough time to actually sit down and go through the course, but then also to stay with the practices that we talk about, to stay with pitching and to make this a priority in their lives. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to making this a priority and carving out time in your days that will, this will be part of your week, and having hesitations around, will I actually be able to do something with it? Will I be able to continue and apply some of these things? Um, uh, and the good news, for people who are listening to our episode today and maybe considering the class, is that we actually have dedicated workshops that address those things as well. So if you're worried about not having enough time, I have a workshop that talks about how you can, what you can do to start actually carving some time in your week, and some strategies around that. If you're worried that you might not be able to go on, or will I be able to do something with it, I have a workshop around that as well. So it's very interesting that these are very common themes, and we definitely have some suggested practices and strategies to deal with those as well. So awesome. Okay, so tell me, um, now, and I really appreciated this about you, Kim. You were like one of the most amazing students, because you do take the content and the material so seriously. And as a teacher, for me, this is a gift, right? Because I put out that thing, I put out all that knowledge and all that stuff into the class, but the power really comes from a student being able to take it and make it their own. And from the first interaction I had with you when we had our one-on-one call, I think I immediately noticed how seriously you were treating, or like you were treating it with respect that I guess any class deserves, right? And I just loved seeing that about you, because that's really where the power comes. If you're able to and not, a lot of times, and speaking from experience, you sign up for the class and then you never open it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That has happened before as well, for sure. But I just loved seeing how you approached, diligently going through the material, and I see the results in you. I see how you've changed since that time, and it's wonderful to see. So
Thank
the
you.
question I have is, what was one of, like, what were some of the elements of the class that were the most impactful for you?
Um, hmm. Well, I think first of all, the mindset module I did really enjoy in the end. um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think because it was not what I was expecting, and it sort of um, I think that helped things because it kind of it puts you a little bit off, not off kilter, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like, hey, I wasn't ready for that, but hey, it's okay. It's gonna, it
Mm.
makes sense, and then um, I think the things that helped me the most are the um, more kind of the I'm trying to think of the right words. Um, I loved having an actual pitch template, um, and
Mm-hmm.
learning how to just break it down into these separate sections. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved having the resources of all the different of of how to find a publication, and even breaking that down further into your starter, your medium, and your aspirational
Mm-hmm.
publications. How to search those publications for if they might have written an article similar to yours before, and even some of the newsletters that put out like just lists of editor requests and yeah, so I think the actual kind of hands-on information really was good, and I really got a lot out of that. It was interesting that the actual physical writing, kind of took a bit of a back seat during the class, and it was. I think you already kind of had confidence in us that we knew how to write, um, and um, so it was just kind of learning the steps to get there to actually put your writing out was really good. Are you still there? You've frozen again, and I don't hear you.
Come on, why is this the case now? What the fuck is this bullshit? Come on, come on, let's try this again. Oh, fuck. Why? Why not? Hi,
Hello.
Kim.
I don't know how
Uh,
much of that you
um,
got because you were frozen for
I
a while.
got, yeah, I got, the last thing I heard was that the really hands-on practical information, practical
Mm,
approach was very useful to you.
yes. Yeah.
Ah, this is so frustrating. Really, I can't keep like I can't seem to find a really good solution because all of the Wi-Fi's, even in a coffee shop, they keep like you know
Oh,
just sometimes falling. Let me try
yeah.
one thing. Let me try to pair it with my data for like with my phone and see if I can do
Okay.
that. Oh, sorry. Let
No, it's
me
okay.
try it. Hey, are you back? Hey, are you back?
I'm back. Yes. Did you
Okay,
get it
so the
cleared?
no, it didn't work. So we're gonna just continue with this silly Wi-Fi and hope it
Okay.
doesn't drop again. Sorry.
That's okay.
Um, so you were saying that the practical hands-on approach was really useful, and I love to hear that because for me the goal was in that class for our students to really come out at the end of it with a pitch that they can go ahead and send out a fully developed, fully formed pitch. And I wanted to know, how did it feel for you to be able to develop that skill of pitching and to say, now I can go ahead and pitch those publications, because I know you mentioned somewhere that you've never done that before. So how did that feel for you to be able to do that?
What was incredible? I I I think having that little template that I can refer back to if I'm just feeling
Mm-hmm.
like something's not clicking within the pitch, I can remind myself, okay, break it down into all these sections, and and then it just helps things flow a lot better. I think the practical side of the course helped to, earlier I was saying about um, it felt very overwhelming to have to research all of that myself. As you gave each practical step, it was like just ticking all of these questions that I had, thought about researching that felt overwhelming. So it was just kind of all this was just melting away that, and feeling a lot more confident in actually putting something
Mm.
together.
I love that. Actually, that's a great insight, because it's funny. I think of confidence as a way to, or like a change in how you see yourself, and to say that I'm worth it, or I'm able to do this. But you're actually giving me a slightly different take on it, which is confidence comes from getting answers to a lot of
Mm.
these overwhelming questions
Yeah,
that you have about this path. And wow, I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that, because yeah, that's a great insight for me too, on how, because I always think about, okay, even like what we can do inside the circle, what workshops to do next, etc. So that's a really, it's a really great insight. I appreciate that.
sure.
Ooh, that was a bee. Oh my goodness. So this is, yeah, this is fun. um So let's talk a little bit about some of the results, or some of the things that you've been able to do since joining the class and later becoming our circle member. I know that you've been pitching. You've been pitching
Uh-huh.
publications. I know that you've been discussing and exchanging ideas and angles with people from Atlas Obscura, from other publications as well. So tell me a little bit about that. Like um, how does that feel now? Now that you've been out of the class for a while and you're in our membership.
Well, it's I think I do have a lot more confidence. I was checking the one of the resources that you gave us was a spreadsheet on how to track your pitches and ideas, and and I took that and sort of added my own little tweaks here and there of what I
Mm-hmm.
needed to remember or know. And before we came on here, I went and looked at that, and so far I've pitched 25 pitches and got accepted for
Amazing.
3. And it's just like, what?
Amazing.
So yeah, it's I didn't think it was that high of the amounts that I had sent out. But yeah, it was really, really encouraging. And I figure if I can do that, since I took the class in April, May-ish, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, about 6 months. Gosh, yeah, it's definitely encouraging.
That's so amazing, Kim. I didn't know that. That you didn't share that with me. That's awesome. That's really cool. And what are some of those places that you got accepted in? If you can share. I mean, I know sometimes,
Yeah.
they sort of place an embargo on it until it's published, but if you can share with us.
Well, the one that's definitely out there already, it was an online kind of a design artist group called Talent House.
Mm-hmm.
And I did an article about what an artist does during the day and how much they get paid
Mm-hmm.
and how many side hustles they need to kind of make everything work. The second one was about, or it was in a magazine called Like the Wind, and it's a print publication. It's about running, and it's
I
supposed to
love
come out in.
it.
It's supposed to come out this month. And they said they would send me a copy. So when they
Oh,
do, I'll be taking pictures of it. But
amazing.
it was about how my running influences my artwork, um, which was a totally different angle than what I actually pitched to them. Um, and then the third one is it was for like a tourism website here in the UK that love to visit. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
yeah, so I've just submitted my invoice for that, so it hasn't actually been published yet. But once it does, I'll put it on my website. So yeah, and I have a couple more
Ah,
I'm still kind of following up with, and but
mhm.
very exciting.
Amazing. That's I love to hear stories like that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I know that you also recently attended a travel conference.
Mm. Well, actually, I didn't quite attend it yet because I signed up for the virtual one, the virtual version, and so that was happening yesterday and today. So that's kind of my plans
Mm.
um, after we get off
Ah,
is
gotcha,
going
gotcha,
into the virtual. Yeah,
gotcha.
I've been
But
following
how did
along. I've been
but
following
I
along with Hannah and Charlotte though.
Charlotte? Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
sorry.
Um, no, 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 no worries, no worries. So there's this idea out there, and I'm definitely guilty of it as well. And I know a lot of other women who feel this way too. That says, in order for me to be successful, I need to figure this out on my own. Like I need to be able to know how to do this on my own or figure this out on my own. And if I can't figure this out on my own, that means that it's really not for me. And so we sort of shut ourselves out before we ever give ourselves any chance of success because we have this idea that somehow we have to be able to do this on our own. And we don't look for sort of communities or for support along the way. So I'm curious, how did the experience of, taking the class and being in community with me and with all these other women How did that impact you?
Well, I think it's a huge positive result, to be honest, because I'm usually like in other classes that I've taken, just in general, like art classes or things like that. I'm always kind of the observer, and I like to just sort of absorb all the information first, and then if I really have a question or really want to say something, it takes me a long time to kind of put together that that question or that comment and actually put it in the out there. And
Mm-hmm.
joining these group or your class and also the circle, the other women that are in there and including yourself are so supportive and so just welcoming and friendly, and it's just kind of like we've known each other for years and we can just chit chat
Mm-hmm.
about things, um and it's yeah, it's given me a lot of bravery to just put myself out there and ask questions, um and even when I was trying to ask for support on my pitch challenge last month, I was definitely checking in with people, and so it just felt a lot more friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's definitely been a good step.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, again, community is one of those words that is also overused and people sort of gloss over it now when they hear it. And I think people definitely don't join things for the community. Like they're looking for some more, I guess, tangible outcomes or tangible results. But I think community is actually what makes it so powerful,
Yeah,
because we see other women who are doing things that we want to be doing or who are having the same challenges we're having. And I don't know, it's so, I think it's so powerful when you're part of that. And I feel like you expand your definition of what is possible for you
yeah.
when you're part of that as well.
I think since we all come from such different backgrounds and we all have kind of our own little vision of what success is going to mean for us, um, that yeah, and just seeing other people succeed and or get knocked back a little bit, but then everyone kind of jumps in and says how great they are anyway, and just to ignore it and move on. And yeah, it's really really nice.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, what are you doing differently now than before you took the class?
Well, um I'm making time for everything that I
Mm,
want to do basically. um and what I A way that helps me work is I have kind of a little timer, an online timer, set it for an
mm,
hour, and I block out that hour and work on, whatever I need to work on. And then once that hour's up, I can either decide to reset it for another hour or change, into something, else that I needed to do. So yeah, I'm definitely breaking out breaking out time to work on things, and also I think just being a little more relaxed, I guess, about things, in the sense of, um, within that hour block, if I don't get my pitch completely finished, that's okay, and I can pick it up again another time. Or if I don't get all the painting I wanted to get done on my artwork, that's okay, and I'll pick it up again. So it's definitely helped me to kind of know that I have the time there,
mhm.
and making it, but also just knowing that I have a choice to change it, I suppose, if I need to. So
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm. And you're pitching again. Like, let's just
I'm
say
pitching.
that you've
Yeah.
pitched to 25 different publications in this time. Wow, that's incredible. And speaking of pitching, we actually didn't touch upon this yet, but we were talking about this just
Are
before we
you
started
still there?
recording. Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, you froze again there.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think you're
Okay. Um, speaking of pitching, I wanted to just cover a little bit rejections as part of
Mm,
that, right? Because
right.
rejections and getting a rejection is such a big part of the fears that we have around this career path that I know that a lot of times that's what prevents a lot of us from pitching, even because we're afraid to get that rejection. And
Hmm.
just before we got on the call and we started recording, you were telling me so nonchalantly, "Oh, yeah, I just got a rejection from a Far magazine." And I almost dropped from my chair because look at how you're reacting to it now. It's not the end of the world. It's not the strategy. It doesn't mean that your pitch wasn't good. It doesn't mean that you are no good. It doesn't mean that you're not cut out for this career. None of these things, right? You took it so a matter of factly, and it was amazing for me to see that, because that's exactly what I want you guys, like when you go through the class and when you are in the membership, that's what I want. That's the state I want you to get at, right? Rejection is just part of the process. Take it, take the feedback, move on. So tell me a little bit more about rejections and how you deal with those now.
um, well, I think I had a bit of practice with that going into it from
Hmm.
my artwork and entering
Yeah, that's so true.
exhibitions and getting rejected. Um, and so a little bit of the tough skin was was building up. But since this was so new and since it was so I've never done it before, and you do feel really vulnerable when you get either your first actual rejection or your just no response at all,
Hmm.
which yeah, just it feels personal at first, um, and then I think what just sort of tipped me over the edge was when we did we were working on the pitch challenge, and it was kind of like I was working so hard on getting these pitches out that and following up. When no one responded, it was just like, well, okay, boom, off to the next one. And it was just this like sort of little, and I think that just made me like, um, yeah, I think something just switched in my head that I thought, okay, that's like you said, and also I think during both in the class and in the circle, you're always telling us like all of the other things that editors are doing or have to do, and
Hmm.
that your pitch might just be one little thing that you know either they had to run through a meeting or they had to or they have to wait for a meeting of other editors.
Yeah.
um, but it's always being kind of reinforced that it's not us and it's not our pitch, and it's usually down to something we can't even control, so there's no point in wasting time worrying about it.
Oh, yes, I love that. Yes, exactly, exactly. I love that. Oh, I'm so glad you're taking all this to heart, because and it shows, right? It shows in your results, it shows in your outlook. And that's exactly where I want people to be when they, come across our community. So that's beautiful. So what would you say to someone who is perhaps interested to get their stories published and take some of these steps, but is not sure what to do next? What should you tell them? What would you tell them?
um I mean, obviously, I would definitely tell them to take the course, but but also just to keep an open mind and um, be ready for the course to go in a different direction than than you may have thought, and be and um, yeah, I suppose there were just so many things that um, I appreciated about the course and the way you set it up, and um, that I think someone would definitely benefit, even if they weren't necessarily interested in travel writing. It was a good um, um, just a good course on putting yourself out there and
Mm-hmm.
joining a community, and just kind of building your confidence and bravery um, in general. So,
In pursuing whatever it is that you want to pursue, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. And of course, the wrapper of the course is travel journalism. And I'm sharing, in in later modules, I share a lot about the industry and how it works and how to, look for magazines and analyze magazines and pitching and all of that. But yeah, I mean, this idea of putting yourself out there and going after whatever it is that you want and persisting with it too, like staying with it, not dropping it after one or two failures because you'll never get anywhere that way.
Yeah.
um, yeah, these are the lessons that I think humans need in general. It's not just about travel journalism. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Oh, amazing, Kim. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and your experiences with the class and some of your things that you've learned and you've been able to apply. I'm really so, like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm so happy that you're part of our community. You're a wonderful member of our community. You're very supportive, and you give back as much as you take, which is also an important part of being in the community, right? It only works when people give back some of that support to each other as well. And I wish you luck on all of your upcoming pitches, and I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see the one that's going to be in print this month. That's so exciting to see your work. In there is no feeling, at least for me, there is no other feeling that can compare with seeing what you've created, your words, your imagery in the actual real, like printed magazine. That's just so exciting. So I'm very excited for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming today on our show, and I will see you inside the circle.
Thank you.
Okay, let me stop recording now.